Hello and welcome to another review-ish video from me. In this one I'm going to be going through Trinity Fusion. In my opinion, an excellent roguelite and Metroidvania game. I think it melds both, or fuses if you will, both genres perfectly. The storyline is pretty cool and it boils down to, in this universe there are 4 parallel dimensions. And for whatever reason they've split and they've gone their own separate ways. In each of the parallel dimensions there's one character that is the same person, but obviously she has different characteristics, and you can fuse them together at certain points in the game, and they're trying to save the universe as it stands. So that's basically the story. Using the story, just to talk about the gameplay quickly, briefly, as you're playing through, you choose a version of the main protagonist, and at certain points in certain levels you can fuse with the other versions. So this, I would say, is the main crux of the game, because each version of the protagonist, she might have one might have a double jump, one might have a mid-air dash, the other one may be able to stick to walls. So depending that's the new word, depending on what the world has and secrets, it may be better to fuse 2 of the characters together than say one of the other characters, because you may need a double jump and a dash, you may need to jump and to double jump off walls. So it depends on what you want to do, and each one also has different gadgets that they have as well. So one may have a sword, with better swords, the other one may be better with guns. So you just go from there. So that's the general gist of the characters when it comes to their vanilla gameplay. This is definitely a roguelite rather than roguelike. There is permadeath, but certain currencies that you collect throughout your current run, you get to keep, and then you can purchase upgrades in a shop later on. And these upgrades are permanent and they're available to any of your 3 protagonists. So whichever one that you choose at the start of your next run, they'll be able to use the permanent upgrades. So that could be health, shield, power, getting life back in certain situations, general things like that. The Metroidvania part, well, it's definitely got the tropes of it. You've got your maps, secret areas. Some areas you won't be able to get to at the start of the game until you get hold of a gadget or an upgrade that can get you further into the game to advance. Most areas you can clear, but you won't be able to uncover all the secrets until, say, multiple runs when you've purchased or accessed a new item. As for general gameplay and how the characters feel and how the game plays, I think, I know it's an indie game, I think there's only 4 developers in this team, but they've just hit the nail on the head. The game just feels perfect to me. The 3 protagonists, even though they're very similar, they are different, but they feel great. The movement feels great. You control the character with the analog stick. The options are good. The text isn't overly fussy. The game doesn't feel cheap. It definitely feels like there is progression with each run. You don't feel like, oh my god, I've lost everything. And there's no frustration. I didn't feel any frustration. It just felt like, with a death, okay, I want to get back into this as soon as possible. Not like, oh my god, I have to go through that hard bit again. No, it was just great. I really do like the graphical style. The worlds are varied. Each one has their own theme. They've got different enemies in each one. The bosses are quite varied and unique in look and attack, but how you fight them is a little bit similar, to be honest. But it's a roguelike, so you have your build, and that's the build you're going to use, and therefore you're going to fight the boss in a certain way to make the most out of your build. So that's to be expected. But yeah, the general flow of the game, the feel of the game, is just really good. Okay, so the three protagonists are Naira, Utara, and Kira. You can, throughout most of the game, you can fuse any two of them together, and at certain spots, well, at a certain part, you can fuse three if you get that far. They all have their different personalities and traits. Even when they're talking in game, the game has voice acting, which is pretty cool as well. As you can see here throughout the game, this is the first time I was able to fuse, but it cost 100 credits and I only had 51, so I couldn't do it here in this stage. On the next stage, when I was able to do it, the price went up to 150, but I did have enough money, so I was able to fuse. But still, you got to make that distinction on which two characters you want to fuse, depending on their abilities and how well they work together. So that's all. You always have to be mindful of that. But yeah, those are the characters and the characteristics there. I will say though that once you've unlocked a certain amount of the game, it doesn't matter which two you initially fuse, because they all share a lot of the power-ups after that. This is all three of them fused. They're almost OP, but they feel great to play with. So definitely get as far as you can and fuse the three, and then basically you're just a wrecking machine. Excellent stuff. So your weapons and gadgets you can bind to any button and move them at will whenever you want. Here's just a general look at a map. Plain and simple, your standard Metroidvania fare. Nothing crazy here. Other gadgets you can get throughout the game are things that enable you to recycle any weapons you don't want to get extra currency, like there, which is always good. You have to unlock and purchase that. I've got a tether, as you can see here. That tether can be used later on to hit enemies as well. A nice upgradable tether, which is cool. Also, just like any Metroidvania, sometimes you can't access or hit things you need to. And then I have a device here that can phase to. It's almost like a drone. You can send it out and then you can phase to wherever the drone is to hit objects that you wouldn't normally be able to get to. So your typical little puzzles and Metroidvania fare right there. Basically, there's a multitude of items and gadgets that can help you out. Some even help you detect fake walls or breakable walls or secret areas, and you never know what's behind them. So yeah, this game definitely leans heavily on the Metroidvania part of its gameplay, just as hard as it does with the rogue lite part of the game. So yeah, very good all around. So next up, we've got permanent upgrades. When you're back at your home base, you can use items that you've collected on your run, orbs, and I can't remember what the yellow things are called. We'll just call them gold coins for now, because I can't remember their name. But yeah, you can go to the shop. There's two there's two people in your home base which you can purchase permanent upgrades. There's a multitude of permanent upgrades. There's big long lists of them, so you can read it here, you can go for it. And also you can tailor them to how you want to play. Some of them I don't find that great. This is the fourth version of the other three protagonists. Remember I said there's 4 parallel worlds. The fourth girl, she speaks to you throughout the game. She's almost like your co-pilot as such, but she can't be there where you are, but she speaks to you. And this is her physical body, and you can buy the major power-ups that I would use from her, and extra slots to put these power-ups in. So you can't just buy a load of them, you have to access slots as well. Yeah, so that's that part there done. Right, so now I'm going to talk about how I played the game. I believe they should create builds that are cohesive and a good blend on your run. So I always like to have stuff with damage over time, and whether that be electricity, poison, fire. But my favorite is ice. Even though ice doesn't really give you that much damage over time, it generally freezes enemies and puts them into a stasis. So this sword, for example, is a very good sword. It gives me damage over time. I mean, it doesn't give me damage over time, sorry. It gives me a good stasis for freezing, and I can get extra hits in. The last hit does a lot of extra damage, and each consecutive hit builds up more damage. So this is a very good sword. You can upgrade the sword, so even if you don't want to change it to something else, you can make the sword more powerful. And here, this rocket launcher, it gives me crit on anything that's frozen or that's still or chilled. So this works really nicely with the sword. There's a good cohesion here. So yeah, I'm just going to take this gun over the one that I did have beforehand. Okay, so just to recap, this ice build I've decided to go for here. As you can see, the sword and the rocket launcher, they go really good. There's a really good cohesion with it. So as long as I freeze something or slow it down and shoot it with the rocket launcher, then I'm going to get crit damage. I can get extra damage, which is really good. As you're playing through the game, you'll come across pods, and in these pods, you can level up other attributes like critical damage and melee hits, life, restoring life. Here I look at the backstabber, which allows me to get crit if I'm behind the enemy, an extra 30% chance higher crit. So this will go nicely with my frozen element that I have. And later on I came to another pod. I don't know if you see that my life restoration is 2 out of 3 and my crit is 2 out of 3. And on the left there's crit vampire that gives me 1% of critical damage that I do, I get healed. So for every bit of critical damage I get 1% heal. So that's going to go nicely with what I'm doing, because if I freeze an enemy and I use my grenade launcher, I get crit. If I hit them from behind, I get crit. So I also heal myself as well. And because of that, now that I'm 3 out of 3 on both of these, I get an extra bonus. So that's how it works out even better. Alright, now I'm just going to show 3 random boss fights. Some of these boss fights you'll see that my energy doesn't really, sorry, not my energy, my life doesn't really go down. But you have to remember the build that I made sure that I got on some of the boss fights, not all of them, because these are, I think 2 of them aren't on the same run, which I just showed my previous build. But the build that I went for was the ice sword, which slows down enemies and puts ice damage onto them. As long as the enemies are slowed or chilled and I use my rocket launcher, I get crit damage. And if I hit them from behind, I get crit damage, so I can freeze them and hit them from behind. When I use rocket launcher, I get even extra damage, and every time I hit them, I get life back. So like I said, in some of the boss fights you may think, why isn't his health dropping? He's getting hit, what's going on there? So that will be the reason why. It's not like I'm putting a cheat. So you can create really OP builds. Like I said, I prefer ice builds, but you can do the same thing with poison, lightning with electricity and shock. What other builds? There's fire builds in there as well. There's others where as long as you hit the enemy with a melee attack, it puts on like 3 little grenades onto them and hits them as well. So you get aftershock explosions. There's all sorts of builds that you can create with this, which are really, really good. So when you play this game, I have to say, just experiment with the type of gameplay that you want to do. You don't have to do melee. Excuse me. I just prefer melee. So most of my builds are melee builds. But yeah, you can do what you want with guns, what have you. So yeah, it's just, this game's just quite deep. I really do think it's a really good Metroidvania and what's the other word I'm looking for? Which is, my mind's gone completely blank. Roguelite, yeah. A really good blend or fusion of Metroidvania and roguelite. This boss here, that purple stuff on it, is called weak. So the enemy is now weak because of the purple sword that I've got. So the next hit, so basically take away their enemy's armor and they just become really weak, so your hits are more powerful. So there's just so much stuff you can do in this game. The game's just really good. I'd advise anyone to buy it. I'm playing this on the PS5. I don't think it was that much money, to be honest. I think maybe like £15 at most when I bought it. I know there was a, because I have the basic tier of PSN, I mean PlayStation Plus, there was a discount as long as you was a PS Plus member on the first week the game came out. I think maybe something like, I don't know, 20% off. So yeah, so it was really good, really cheap. But but it was one of my surprise hits of 2023. Came out at the end of the year, and I just loved it, to be honest. So yeah, I definitely recommend this game right here. When I purchased this game, there was two, for want of a better word, packs, or two different versions you could buy. I bought the higher tiered version, which was an extra £3 or £4 more. And it gave me boss rush mode. I think I didn't have to unlock. I got a skin as one of the enemies, so I could go through the game as one of the enemies. They are stronger than the three girls, and they have more attributes since you start the game. The cutscenes didn't change, unfortunately. You see the girls, and it goes back to the main enemy afterwards. So they didn't get any new cutscenes. It's basically, for want of a better word, it's basically a skin, really. They don't have their own story, which is a bit of a shame. The developers have said that more content is coming, so that's nice. So think of something like Dead Cells. Each year that game got bigger and bigger and bigger until it's the behemoth that it is now. I think this game would do well to copy that, and hopefully they will. So this is like a 1.0 version of the build. By the end, this game could be, I don't know, 3.5, could be version 3.5, but it could be other biomes. The game could change drastically. Extra weapons, gadgets, new worlds, new bosses, continue the story. Hell, new protagonists. We just don't know. But it'd be really interesting to see where they go with the game. Like I said, what we have here is excellent, really good. I advise anyone to go and buy it. So yeah, I just want to see where they go with it in the future. And they put a message saying thanks for everyone who bought the game. It's done well for them. I know it's on PC. Obviously it's on PlayStation. I'm assuming it's on Xbox and Switch. It must be on Switch, because Switch has a ton of these type of games. Xbox, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a Game Pass game. But anyway, look out for it and definitely play it. If I could have a thumbs up and a like, that would be most appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace!